The #1 hero of the United States of America, Star and Stripe, hands down has probably, if not the most, then definitely one of the most broken quirks in the entirety of My Hero Academia. Like, this quirk is insane, and you're not gonna freaking believe what she's capable of, but on top of that, you're not gonna believe the excellence, the epicness that this hero brings forth, truly embodying a lot of what a lot of people would consider the American way and what American would be like, considering she is just like some other stuff when it comes to the way she combats things, but also something grandioso that I gotta commend and applaud Horikoshi, the creator of My Hero Academia, when it comes to a foreshadowing that ties everything together with the #1 hero, Star and Stripe, and her connection to All Might and everything. Like, just mwah, we got a lot to talk about with My Hero Academia, because right now things is going down. We got internal conflicts on a whole different scale with Shigaraki and All for One, this battle against Star and Stripe, her abilities, a lot to talk about. I guess without further ado, people, let's talk a little bit of that My Hero Academia greatness, because right now it is getting epic as hell. And again, I gotta stress that quirk though, that quirk, oh my god. Let's talk.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
Yes, people, like I stressed in the intro, Star and Stripe is broken. In this battle, we get to see a little bit of an insight into her quirk, and I ain't gonna lie, I was absolutely astonished at just how broken this hero truly is. I was like, what the heck is going on here, folks? Because chapter 330 opened up with Star and Stripe getting informed on who that actually is in front of her, because at first, which again, kind of made me feel a little bit like it was Superman-esque, at the very least from what I remember in Superman the Animated Series, how he would go flying in, no questions asked, you know, punch first, ask later, and not really know what the heck he was getting into. Star and Stripe really didn't know that that was not All for One, which again was a little bit like, not necessarily disappointing, but I guess it shows the cockiness and just how much she believes in herself that, oh, it doesn't matter whoever it was, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna stomp dude out. Horikoshi really wanted to embody a lot of America in all of this. She got like Black Hawk choppers and planes and ready to drop bombs on Shigaraki, and I'm like, God, Horikoshi really did his due diligence in terms of what it feels like for, you know, an American battle, especially considering, like, you know, the Black Hawks was a big deal. I want to say it was in one of the world wars. Forgive me, I'm not a history buff when it comes to the Black Hawks. And again, just getting more characterization into this Star and Stripe character, because she's not a pushover by any means. In fact, she is very balls to the wall extreme, because the pilot from the Black Hawk asks, like, so what do you want to do? How you want to play this? You want to do evasion or you want to go offense? How you want to play it, Star and Stripe? And the American in her says, do we need to even ask? We smash! Like, definitely influenced by All Might, but All Might on steroids in terms of personality and in terms of extremes, because All Might wouldn't have said, you know, do you even gotta ask? We smash with gritting his teeth. He probably would have said, I am going to smash now. Something like that, you know, kind of lighthearted and humble nature to it, where this girl, Star and Stripes, is just all... And I ain't gonna lie, I don't know how I'm coming across right now, but I want to say that I am very much so on the boat of standing Star and Stripe. I freaking love her, okay? I love the living crap out of Star and Stripe, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And I ain't gonna lie, just looking at some of the art, especially in this chapter, but just every moment that we've seen of her thus far, her character design kind of gives me like the female character designs that you would get from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where it kind of comes across a little bit masculine in a way, but still a very epic edginess to it, and I just freaking love it. I don't know, like, Star and Stripe might be one of my favorite new characters to the My Hero Academia manga in a really long time. I love it. And I'm gonna lie, she violated the living crap out of that pilot, because the pilot is like, okay, cool, we're gonna go offense, hopefully one of us makes it to safe landing. And her reply, yet again, the characterization of extreme, and just like, you gotta have a little bit of empathy in you, god damn it, like, come on, what are you doing? Because her reply was, I'll make sure your remains make it back to your family, your loved ones. I'm like, oh my god, yo, All Might would not talk like that. So again, this is kind of a version of All Might, but essentially this is American female All Might. You add the American extreme nature to it, and then a female, and boom, that's female American All Might. Because to say something like that, like, I don't know, like, I love it, but at the same time, I'm even a little scared of it, like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, she little extreme even for me. And here is where immediately in the chapter, I knew something was off, and from reading the comments of everybody, I didn't really see much people diving into this, per se, because a lot of people were talking straight up as if it was Shigaraki throughout the entire chapter. But once I got this dialogue, I knew something was off, because Shigaraki is in a strange place. He says, I can truthfully declare I'm Shigaraki, but at the same time, there's no doubt I'm also me. And if you analyze that dialogue, that's basically almost as if All for One is talking within Shigaraki's body, right? Because he's saying, I can truthfully declare that I'm Shigaraki. Like, hey, this is the body, and possibly even the way he's acting feels Shigaraki-esque, but he's saying that he can also say that he is himself. So that's where we get later on the explanation of what's really going on in the innards of Shigaraki. But it was just kind of mind-boggling to me as I was reading the chapter when I got to that point alone. I was like, what is going on here? Is like Shigaraki having a mental breakdown? Is this All for One inside of Shigaraki's body already? Which also, I'll be honest with you, a part of me feels like I hope to goodness that in the next whatever happens with My Hero, hopefully we get a time skip and things move forward. I want to see Shigaraki when he's able to, you know, kind of pursue his wrath and pursue his villainy his way. Like, I feel like to a certain degree, and I hope this doesn't come across as wrong, but I almost feel like Shigaraki is getting cheated out of his villain experience of being the main MC villain. Like, that's something that I feel like with All for One's involvement in things is like, oh man, move the out the way with your boom. Like, that's how I truly feel when it comes to, because in case you don't know, I'm a very, very big Shigaraki fan. I love Shigaraki. He's probably my favorite character of My Hero Academia at this particular point, period. Not just of the villains. I just really, really like this character a whole lot. So to see that he's almost getting cheated out of the spotlight with this melting pot of a body that he has at this point with All for One kind of pisses me off. And I really hope that moving forward, if we do get a time skip and the series continues in My Hero World or something like that, I really hope that Shigaraki gets his time to shine as main villain without All for One sticking a peg up his. And you see he's gearing up with radio waves plus air cannon plus heavy payload, and he says he's felt like this since he awakened, which again is a very big mind cluster, you know what I'm saying, of like, holy cow, because he just got all these thoughts, and he's using techniques and quirks and stuff that also All for One really utilized a lot. So again, it's just something is off, you could tell as you're reading this chapter. And I love how Star and Stripe evades Shigaraki's attack and then questions like, yo, do you know my deal? Not that it really matters, like, yo, I'm still kicking your ass and I'm still gonna reign supreme. Again, the American in her, I'm gonna reign supreme in the end regardless. I was like, oh my god, I love her, but woo! And then that's where we get introduced to the entire concept and what I've been telling you since the inception of this video of how broken she is, because her quirk is called New Order. And she says to herself, 100 meters ahead, she wants that in front of her, air does not exist. And after touching a target, she can call out its name and assign new rules to it. So that's her quirk essentially. So right now, I'm going to give you a hypothetical. This cup of coffee, she could touch it and assign new rules to, let's just say, the particles of the cup. If she understands it, she can basically say cup and then rearrange it to, like, I don't know, the innards of the cup is sticking out like that. Like, essentially, she could do all sorts of stuff. And she could do that to air, because air isn't like, you know, I can't just grab air. It's that she's actually touching the air just barely enough to reorganize it. Essentially, if she could get somehow way, like, touching the moon, she could literally make the moon fall on us. Like, all she has to do is be able to touch the moon, break out of Earth's, you know, atmosphere, break out of everything, and then go and touch the moon, and boom, drop. That is extremely broken. She could touch essentially the earth, and if she's capable enough, she could make the earth just start shooting out volcanoes, all sorts of stuff, make the earth crumble. She could take Shigaraki's attempts at villainy to a whole new level if she wanted to. Like, this is really on some insane next level stuff, and she's broken, but again, it all goes in line with her American nature of being extreme, so to speak. And I love as he's suffocating there, Shigaraki, he's like, oh, such a brutal quirk, I want it. I'm like, alrighty then. But again, that also kind of, while it's Shigaraki, at the same time, it kind of doesn't feel almost exclusive to something Shigaraki would say. And then he even gets hit while he's suffocating by a bunch of laser cannons by all those Black Hawks, and then Black Hawks start arguing about like, no, I hit him, trying to take cred. Like, it's definitely a apparent, right? Because in case you don't know, My Hero Academia in 2020 was the highest selling manga of the United States, period. So this is, in my opinion, Horikoshi's attempts at really giving somewhat of what he feels is like a bit of American, I guess, patriotism. I don't know exactly what you would say, but the experience from his eyes of, you know, kind of catering to the West, so to speak. I feel like that's why we have to begin with us seeing Star and Stripe opposed to like the number one hero of France or some other place, because America really loves My Hero Academia, which it also makes sense because American culture for the longest time, since the inception of Superman, Batman, all of these, you know, superhero comics have been a big deal. And now the new generation, we're like, we love superheroes, but we like these Japanese superhero comics. So it's kind of like embedded in this culture of superheroes. It's just now My Hero Academia is doing it a different way, and it's blowing up. And that's why Horikoshi is paying tribute, in my opinion, to everything American he could think of. The way she acts, the Black Hawks, all of it. However, Shigaraki is still, of course, Shigaraki, that boss, and he uses a reflect quirk to essentially reflect and scatter the beams back. And again, it's just like a back and forth that I really, really love, because then Star and Stripe is able to grab the beams with her bare hands, and I'm like, oh my god, who is this freaking amazing woman? And then she says something that, again, if you've ever watched, like, for example, Hajime no Ippo, right? Usually the Japanese boxers over there, they get ridiculed, they get looked down on, like, oh, they're just Japanese boxers. I don't know exactly why that is, but that's ultimately something I've seen of a theme in a few different shows, of that a lot of the rest of the world, when it comes to like physical capabilities, they be like saying some snarky to Japan. And then when she said this, I was like, yeah, I felt her American there to a certain degree. His body is healing. No wonder Japan lost to this guy. Like, how are you gonna shit on an entire country? Like, oh my god, Star and Stripe. It's like, those are the parts of her that I'm kind of like, you know, this is where the female All Might starts to break away. Like, All Might would not say some that like, no wonder the Americans are this way. They're all like, he wouldn't say that, even if he thought that, you know what I mean? But here's where, again, that experience between Shigaraki's experience, but also All For One's experience comes into play, because Shigaraki's like, he noticed that the vacuum is gone, and he starts questioning, okay, so what are the limitations, if any, to her quirk, if already this air vacuum has, you know, dispersed? And I ain't gonna lie, that was a bad decision on Shigaraki's part. Well, I guess it was all part of the plan, so it worked out in the end and whatnot, but very, very bad plan, in my opinion, at the release for the beginning, because, you know, it gotta hurt when the Nomu launched Shigaraki at her, and she just straight up knocked him. I was just like, oh, I get it, means to an end, but boy, did those means hurt. But then we also learn of her quirk limitations, because she does have limitations. If not, she would really be extremely broken. Like, if this wasn't a limit, which is still, like, not the biggest limit in the world, but if this wasn't a limit, oh my god. Because apparently she can only set new rules for 2 different targets at once, so essentially she could only do, like, this cup and this microphone, and then if she wanted to do something else, she gotta stop it with the microphone, whatever new rules she set, and then do it to something else, which, again, that's not the biggest setback, drawback to an incredible power like that at all. And the fact that she also said it might not be on the same level as All Might, but I pack a punch too, I'm pretty friggin' strong. I wish it would have been in the manga, just being honest with you, it would have felt a little bit more nice, but ultimately, I don't even think this has ever really been done before, where a major character was foreshadowed in a film, because it seemingly is, oh wow, man, this is some marketing genius. Like, I know people don't like to think about the money side of things, the business side of things, but considering My Hero Academia's movies do very well, and the audience, the female audience in particular, really loves it. In fact, now that I think about it, wow, that's probably why number one hero of America is a female, because of the female audience of My Hero Academia. I'm learning so much as I'm sitting here right now with you guys. But seemingly, Star and Stripe was inspired by All Might all the way back to the first My Hero Academia film, Two Heroes, when she was saved by a Japanese overseas student. That is crazy. That, again, I don't think that's ever been done before, and it's not the most neat per se, because again, ideally you would want all the source material to come from the source material, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that it comes from there, I guess it definitely solidifies that film as canon, or at the very least a version of the events from that film as canon. But ultimately, that was crazy, and I really rock with it a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I really thought that was amazing. It was incredible foreshadowing, because there was also a discrepancy. Some people were saying that in the Vigilantes manga, there's somebody else that was showcased to be the number one hero of America, so they were wondering like what happened with Star and Stripe. Obviously something happened to dude between the events of Vigilantes and now to, you know, kind of replace him, and now we got Star and Stripe. So he either died, he retired, something happened. And then even to show homage, pay homage to All Might, the fact that he had two, you know, the little two horns that his hair was turned into and whatnot, she that that ingrained into her mind when he saved her back then when she was a child, and that's why she has 8 of them. And oh my god, there was one panel in particular where she just looked mwah, Horikoshi, mwah, because Shigaraki is pissed off. He's like, there's no escaping that freaking All Might, and she's just there looking like, I don't even know, feeling like she's having an orgasm or something like that, because she's just like, yeah, that's because he's the symbol of peace. And I'm just there like, oh my god, I want to be her symbol of peace. I'm just saying. And she says, oh, by the way, you know my quirk, I touched you. So if Tomura Shigaraki moves, his heart is going to stop. That's the new rule that I'm just putting here. I'm just putting it out there. And yeah, if it wasn't for the planning and if it wasn't for this freak show All for One, what he's done, things would have gone very, very bad for the villains. But he says she fell for it, and we get the big reveal at the end. Shigaraki has been kind of hazy since he had reawoken, and we see this mental image, as seemingly as that's like, you know, that mental image that normally Shigaraki has when he thinks of him in All for One, and it's All for One kind of wrapping his arms, embracing very heavily Shigaraki, essentially symbolizing that Shigaraki is not free. And in fact, it goes on to explain that All for One has basically almost completely taken over Shigaraki, and it was supposed to be within 2 months that Shigaraki was going to be completely overwritten with All for One. All for One was going to essentially take over his body. However, because of Shigaraki's stubbornness and his hatred and anger, he is only 97 to possibly 98% complete. So still 2% away, which ultimately I don't think that it's going to be completed. It would, honestly, I would be very, very upset, and I would be very disgusted with a buildup of a main character villain, because it's almost like I've said for many, many years now, flip side of the same coin. Deku is one side, Shigaraki's the other. It would be horrible, in my opinion, for everything that Shigaraki stood for, stands for, and is to be flushed down the toilet in favor of this, you know, boomer that can't get over the fact that All Might whipped his ass years ago. So I'm going to throw my theory out there that no, that it's not going to get completed. That's why we're still at 97, 98, and even if it goes to near 100, Shigaraki's going to find a way with his rage to separate, and then Deku is going to be the final key of freeing Shigaraki, and then whatever happens afterward, whether we get another villain, whether we get a time skip, or whether the series ends, that'll be that. But yeah, 97, 98% overwritten, and that's why Shigaraki was talking the way he was earlier, because he's an amalgamation at this point, a melting pot of both of them. And All for One even goes on to say that there'll be neither All for One or Shigaraki, there'll be somebody totally new. Essentially think like, you know, Gotenks from Dragon Ball Z or Vegito, stuff like that. Like, that's, I guess, what it's going for, except it'll probably still be in Shigaraki's body, just with, like, I don't know, think of when Piccolo fused with Nail. And the chapter ends off with Star and Stripe noticing, like, well, it didn't work. Like, is that actually Tomura Shigaraki? Was I giving bad information? What's going on here? And you see Shigaraki raging against the thought of All for One taking him over, his hair looking sick as hell. I love that design with the long freakish hair. And it all began in that house with a grain of hate that grew and built upon itself. Oh my god, I don't know where Horikoshi is taking us at this point during this battle, but I can say that this is epic. This is one of the best things since the last war that we had in a while. Like, I like this more than the Lady Nagant stuff. Like, this is prime time. Star and Stripe, an extreme American #1 hero versus Shiga One for All, or All for Shigaraki. I don't know what you want to call him at this point, but I'm very curious what you guys think. For starters, big question: do you feel like Star and Stripe's quirk is too broken? Like, you know, you could essentially touch the moon and turn the moon into something totally different, or touch Earth at that, if that's even a possibility, if that's not out of the realm. Like, your thoughts on that? How do you feel about Shigaraki and All for One essentially being fused together to create this new being, where essentially it's just really All for One taking complete control? And your overall thoughts and expectations for where this is all gonna go. This was an exciting chapter. Again, My Hero Academia right now is heading to an amazing climax, and I'm loving it right now. This was amazing. Go Star and Stripe. I don't know. I really love Star and Stripe, okay? I really rock with Shorty. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and yo, this battle is so freaking hype. Star and Stripe, I love ya, but I still rock with Shigaraki. Don't get it twisted. I want Shigaraki to be free, fam. Get All for One out of his head. Get Star and Stripe off him. Kick some ass. Let's go. Have an awesome one.
You are me.